TAW Unwrapped, unwrapping the big talking points across the football world from Liverpool. And the talking point for this week's episode focuses on a rivalry that has transcended the borders that separate the countries in this world of ours, which is Real Madrid versus Liverpool, or Liverpool versus Real Madrid in the case of the match this week. Joining me to look ahead to that and talk a bit about both teams is Phil Blundell, Kieran Molyneux and Dan Morgan. A strong panel for hopefully a strong talking point, hopefully a strong show. It feels like Liverpool have been involved in a couple of these rivalries down the years in Europe, but Real Madrid has definitely become the competitive rivalry since the final in Kiev. The Reds have played them 7 times, if you include that 2018 final since then. Unfortunately, we've only come out on top once in those 7 games, which was last season's 2-0 win at Anfield. Aside from that, there has been 1 goalless draw, which Real Madrid secured a 3-1 aggregate winning for the quarterfinals in 2021, and the rest are all defeats. So I want to sort of split this into 3 sort of strands of this, fellas. So I want to start with the beyond the footy stuff, and I'll come to you first on this, Keo, because when I think about Real Madrid, like, they almost feel like, to me, the antithesis of Liverpool in terms of like club cultures. That whole sort of thing of them being like the King's Club feels very, very different to the club who boos the national anthem and these kinds of things. So do we think there's always going to be that edge to this rivalry that almost isn't so much about the football or about any level of competitiveness as much just like, we don't like you because you aren't like us? Yeah,
I mean, we're quick to call ourselves the best fans in the world because we are. Right. They're quick to call themselves the most successful football club ever because they are. Now, somewhere in between when we play them, we need to realise that they had the better handovers over the years, but I wouldn't change being a Liverpool fan for absolutely any, for their success. So we are completely different sets of fans, but we're a proper club and proper set of fans, in my opinion. When we've played them, the fans aren't necessarily amazing in my opinion.
They're terrible in Kiev. Yeah, they know what's going on.
I was putting it calmly there, but they're crap. They are crap, but they're a huge fan base. Wherever you go in the world, you meet a Real Madrid fan. So it's a bit of a weird one with them, isn't it? They're a huge football club, hugely successful, but as an all-rounder, I mean, we're a better football club. Yeah.
Do you think that sort of spirit of them, Dan, is sort of embodied by fellas like Cristiano Ronaldo and Sergio Ramos, particularly in recent times? Obviously, Ramos has got sort of added hatred for us, really, because of the way he did Salah in that final in Kiev. But, you know, they've just been a horrible side for as long as I can remember, really. And there's even lads in the current crop who, you know, some of them obviously were around when Cristiano Ronaldo and Sergio Ramos were playing, if you think about like Dani Carvajal and stuff. But there's just a couple of them always in that side who I'm like, you're horrible. And I feel like you embody that spirit of Real Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, Ronaldo almost become the embodiment of Real Madrid for a decade, near enough. Similar to Keo, I've got no idea what they are in terms of a culture, to be totally honest with you. I mean, I know obviously what they represent in Spain and stuff, but they just almost stand alone as this entity of super club Galactico, as they call themselves. And I think, like, if you go back to you hop back to like the Super League, sort of short-lived era, there couldn't be another club that you could build as a perfect club for a Super League than Real Madrid. And I think that says a lot about, similar to PSG, what's going on in their domestic leagues and stuff. But ultimately, you know, I think they will always pack their sides with the big players, big personalities, because it just seems to be this ultimate destination football club. And I sort of get it, and I don't. Like, that's the thing. I think if you've got a competitive league like the Premier League, which is the best league in the world for quality, and you see someone like Florian Wirtz who says, no, actually, my destination is the Premier League now because it's where I can, you know, showcase myself and challenge myself to the best of my ability, then I sort of understand that mindset more than saying, it's Real Madrid, I'm going to go there and, you know, for whatever it is, 35 games a season, I'm probably going to just canter through it and it'll be absolutely fine. And also just on the last point that you made, I mean, I don't really have a problem with them in terms of a rivalry with them because I just don't feel anything. Like, I'd have much more of a problem with, you know, a fascist club, you know, AS Roma or the likes. You know, some people might have more of a problem with a Celtic or a Rangers based on politics and history and religion and everything else. But I don't feel a rivalry with Real Madrid, to be totally honest. I don't really like what they stand for, but they're a massive club and they're just going to be always around it.
And do you think that's where, because you mentioned about them sort of almost Ronaldo becoming the embodiment of them. Like I look at Ronaldo and it's dead funny when you speak to United fans, and probably less after the most recent spell with them, but how many sort of claim them as like their lad, like, you know, Ronaldo almost like they've basically made him into this Mancunian, and yet I think he's a footballer who like almost doesn't really have a home because he was so focused on himself for one. Like you couldn't name any teammates who you were like, oh, Ronaldo was so close to this fella or anything, whereas, you know, you look at Steven Gerrard down the years and he'll become synonymous with Fernando Torres and Xabi Alonso and players like that, because Gerrard sort of embodied team spirit more, and in that way embodied Liverpool, whereas Ronaldo embodies individualism, and in that sense he embodies like a Galactico Real Madrid.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I think they have always and should always be in the market for the best players in the world. Doesn't mean they'll always have them. Like I think at one point Steven Gerrard was the best player in world football. Real Madrid didn't have him. Same for Lionel Messi. They probably have had down the years in the other Ronaldo, in Cristiano, in Luis Figo at times, and I think it just suits, it just fits that they're at that club. You know, Vinicius has probably been in that conversation in recent years as well. Look, don't get me wrong, I mean, it's a different conversation with Trent now, I'm going to come on to him, but I remember Steve McManaman going there and scoring a goal in the European Cup final and being made up for him. Like, really happy for him, because he'd gone to that stage and he'd made it, and he'd sort of showcased himself as a quality player on that stage. So very, very mixed how I am with them.
Yeah, and like I want to sort of play devil's advocate on the basis that we are the Devil's Club here, Phil, because like I sort of look at Real Madrid as though they are this team who are versed in the dark arts, and there's times where I'd like Liverpool, and particularly, you know, Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool teams in more recent years to have been a bit more about the dark arts and been a little bit more, you know, surrounding referees and all these kinds of things that, you know, Liverpool sometimes felt like a team who were too nice. But then if you are sort of going by that Devil's Club parlance, do you think there should almost be more, or there is more maybe that sort of unites us and divides us with Real Madrid?
I feel quite similar in a way, because there's a sort of a swagger to both football clubs where they're both like, we're the big boys, we are the main ones, we are, you know, the biggest clubs in the world, biggest clubs in the country, and there's a real sort of belief that we're better than everybody else, which is largely because historically we are. Right? It's not been, we've had a weird spell, but we've dominated Europe in a way that not many clubs have. I mean, they're sort of, they go through weird spells in Europe in terms of they basically have a period that they have nothing. Like they went, I think
10 years, was it?
It was longer than that, really, when you think about you know, I don't think they won a European Cup between like the late 50s, early 60s and 98. And then they win 3 in 5 years, 6 years, 5 years, 3 and 5 years, and then they go quiet for 12.
That's what I meant.
And win the 10th, and then they win, 6 out of 10, was it?
Yeah.
Like to do that is incredible. There's not many clubs who go on these runs like that. We did it in the late 70s, early 80s. They've done it. Barcelona probably didn't do it in the same way that you think about. Okay, did they win 3 in what? Did they win 4 in about 11 or something like that? But it wasn't the same period of dominance, whereas Liverpool are able to go, well, look what we've done. They're able to go, look what we've done. And there's a sort of belief that you're better. So there's a lot of similarities, I think, between the two clubs. Not necessarily in the day-to-day behaviour, in terms of like the way they sort of bully football in a way, in terms of look at the players they've recruited on a free, and it's not just Liverpool. They've done it to Bayern Munich, they've done it to Liverpool, they've done it to Chelsea. I think Chelsea were the European champions at the time as well. They have an ability to sort of go, well, we are the destination, and you have to admire it at least grudgingly.
Yeah, and Phil references the sort of totals of European Cups there, Kieran. I think that's an interesting point to sort of move on to the footy element of this, because when we win our 5th European Cup, they had 9 at the time, and they've won another 6 since, as Phil references. And I sort of wonder, because of how, I guess, good really in some ways it felt to catch Man United in terms of league titles. Is there a part of that which hurts us, like this idea that, like, I know for sure in my lifetime I'm never going to see Liverpool catch Real Madrid in terms of European Cups unless something like completely remarkable happens. Like Milan since Athens always felt like they were fairly easy to catch. Like Milan have been a little bit out of things in terms of being a super club in recent years, whereas Liverpool still go so far in European competitions, but it almost feels like that's always going to be in vain, as I say, at least in our lifetimes, for catching Real Madrid.
We're not going to catch them.
Yeah.
Not in our lifetime anyway. But
It'd be fun if we did though.
It would be really fun.
If we catch them, we're going to have a good time over the next 10 years. Put it that way.
I hope my life's longer than 10 years. Like.
Yeah.
We'll be skint.
Yeah, look, like 15 European Cups is it's unbelievable, and I'm similar to Phil, you've got to admire it in a way. They win finals though. I mean, apart from the one we beat them in.
That's the last one. That's the last European Cup final we lost.
About to ask for the facts there. I can't remember them losing the European Cup final. Whereas at Liverpool, on the other hand, I mean, we've lost a lot of finals in recent years, and we've like the 2 European Cup finals I've seen us lose, add them to the board, and all of a sudden you're like, we'll catch them. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like Liverpool have sort of failed in the sense of the Real Madrid are miles out in front. We should just won a couple of more finals.
14-8 would be a lot different.
It would be a lot different, and that's what Real Madrid have done. They've done it against us in Kiev. We've seen them do it every time they get to a final. They act like Galacticos. They get the final. They have that swagger, and dare I say it, they probably have got a little bit more about that than we have.
Do you think it would mean a lot to you, sort of, you know, particularly as a lad from Liverpool, really, to be able to say, you know, again, we can accept it's not going to happen in our lifetimes, but let's sort of imagine an alternative reality where Madrid stayed on 9 and Liverpool were able to catch them. Let's say, you know, spin the Kiev and Paris finals round, and Madrid stayed on 9 and Liverpool have won a couple more since then. Like, would that be a sense of pride for you to be like, Liverpool have won the most European Cups? Is that something you think you'd not even knowingly aspire towards?
Yeah,
yeah.
Of course we would. Don't get me wrong, I'm very, very proud of Liverpool and their history in Europe anyway. I mean, I'll always shout that from the rooftops, but you'd be lying if you were sitting there and you're saying you don't want to be the most successful team in Europe. Of course you do. So yeah, I mean, there's element of jealousy about it, I suppose. I'd love to be the most successful team in Europe, but I don't think we've had a bit of a bad run. I mean, just in my lifetime, going to match, never mind, like the fellas you've seen us win absolutely every European Cup that's been. So it's one of them. 15 European Cups it's impressive, but I wouldn't swap being a Liverpool fan. Like.
Absolutely, and Dan, it feels like we're sort of seeing them more than ever now, and you know that might only increase with the Swiss system. So obviously it's designed to make sure that the big clubs are meeting each other more than ever, and we've certainly done that in recent years, Real Madrid. But there's also always a bit of a fear, and I think that you'll have to go through them to get to the final. Like whenever we've drawn them in the past few years, I'm a little bit like, I don't mind playing them early in the competition because I kind of like to see what they're about in case you do get to the latter stages, because I mean you could throw PSG into that sort of equation now as well, but you feel like if you are going to get to the final at some point, you're probably going to have to play Madrid unless basically somebody else does you a favour.
Yeah, I think you always have to see what Madrid you're facing as well, season by season. Sometimes they can look really tame. That's never seems to be the case when we play them. Yeah. Obviously,
last season probably the one time really where you thought that. Yeah.
Yeah, and also remember there's been another semi they had, I think, with City where they just
City ripped them apart.
Really shit the bed. Yeah, and I think you obviously expect the best of them, but even I think the game at Anfield last season, I probably expected a bit more from them. I thought we were great on the night, but it's Real Madrid, and you see the name and you expect the very, very best, and we're probably all doing that again tomorrow. So, yeah, look, it's one of those with them where you play the name, you don't play the side, because you'll know it'll be a really, really good side. You know they'll have the best manager available, and you play the name, and it's an unbelievable occasion. Like, they will think the same about us. You know, it'll be the highest sort of game that they can play as well. And we talked about the fans before, but I'm sure the sort of hardcore Real Madrid will relish playing Liverpool because they will see us as top European pedigree, which we are, you know, and then it's all right us talking about, you know, how many European Cups we might win and whether we could get anywhere near them in our lifetime. Like, we've seen with the League Cup final last season what it means to win that for a club like Newcastle, who've gone years and years, decades, without any trophy success at all. So you've got us on the flip side of that. Won the European Cup 6 times, so this is the biggest, you know, this is the biggest of games, and that it comes at this stage, I think it's a good thing. I think it is a good thing. I'm enjoying the Swiss system. I think we've been fucked over quite a lot by the draw in the past 2 years, and I'd just like it to be a bit easier, not have Galatasaray as a pot 4 side, for example. But I do enjoy it, and I do like that it throws up these games as one-offs, and they're not terminal either. You know, they can just be played and it not be defining in the same way. But yeah, if we're probably going to get to the end of the competition, we might have to face them again. Definitely, they'll be there or thereabouts, won't they?
Yeah, when I was speaking to Neil about the idea behind this show, Phil, we were sort of almost running by each other like other rivalries that there are across Europe that you could say the same for, and, you know, speaking to Dan about the Swiss system there, like, I wonder whether more of these will come to the fore. Like, it feels like Liverpool and Real Madrid is a big one at the moment, but you even look back in the past of like United and Barca during the Fergie years, Bayern and Real during the 2010s as well, and how often these teams just seem to come against each other because of progress in Europe, but also there's that like almost added edge now that you might come up against them in the semis or the final, but also you might have played them in the groups too, and, you know, it's almost like you constantly got the chance to get one over on each other.
Yeah, I think the big one for me has always been, from without involving us, Bayern Real over the last sort of 10, 15 years. They feel like they've played each other quite a lot in really big games, and some of them have been great to watch. I think the year Chelsea won it, Bayern beat Real in the semi on penalties, I think, if I remember correctly, and that was like a great two-legged game of football that ended in an unbelievable way. And you will get some of them, but it is the problem with it is you can't predict them. Like, you can't guarantee them, so it sort of is a bit of a problem in that, like, they are complete luck of the draw. Like, you think about how good Real and Barca were for so long, simultaneously good. Never played each other in a final. I think they played each other in a semi-final in about maybe 2002 or something, but even without that, they never even really, I don't even think they played each other in any of the knockouts, which from the quarter-final onwards was always possible, wasn't it? So you are at the everything's on the whim of balls coming out of a pot in a particular order to make it so it is, and it really is quite difficult to build it up into a way, because we think how many times we've played Bayern Munich ever. We've played Bayern Munich, I think it's 4 times.
I was just thinking that.
And that's 2 of the biggest clubs in the world who are at the end of these competitions all the time. You know, in the early stages of the competitions all the time, it just doesn't really happen. Like, we played Barcelona, in the Champions League probably twice in 20 years.
And then the UEFA Cup.
And then the UEFA Cup. You still, they can add these fixtures in, but it's still reliant on a lot for you to repeat them. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure there's a rule that says we can't play Real Madrid at home next season. I'm pretty sure you can't have the same fixture 3 years in a row.
Oh, right.
Really? Yeah.
I think we can play them away, but I'm pretty sure you can't play them at home.
Right,
so I think they put that in place so that, but again, that sort of works against the.
So Real Madrid away next year?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Madrid's great. Yeah. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Every time.
Who's there, the ham on away?
Yeah, just all the ham. Just eat ham for 3 days. But yeah, it is still quite hard to get this sort of rivalry going, because, like, all right, you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold's been gone for 6 months, and he's coming back after, you know, 3 months into the season or whatever. But there was a while where he just never came back to Anfield, and it was nothing particularly mad had to happen for that to be the case.
Well.
I think he probably would have done. I think there's a lot of people who wouldn't, in fairness. But it's completely, well, it's not completely random, is it? But there's a level of sort of, it's just difficult to make it repeat, and that's sort of the problem. And it only, like, you only need to be out to the Champions League for 1 year, and you go potentially 3 years anyway.
Do you think that rivalry we have with Chelsea in, like, the Benitez days that extended to Europe would have been the same if they weren't an English side, if they were a foreign side?
No, because I mean, you think about how often we played them.
We were in the League Cup that year
so
as well,
often.
didn't we?
We played them in the League. We played them in it was the group stages as well this season.
4 times in a season or something like that.
Yeah. That's what I kind of wonder now, though, like with the group stage or the league stage, as they call it now, the way it is, like, could you get somebody like that who becomes the Chelsea because suddenly there's a chance to play someone 3 times in the season, not just, you know, not just twice.
That was that mad. I think I've been to Stamford Bridge more than I've been to Old Trafford.
Yeah.
That's how insane that rivalry was, and the frequency at which we played them, because we played them in the League Cup as well.
Yeah,
like, I think there was one where I think Peter Crouch gets sent off. We lose 2-0. That was a League Cup game. That was the same season, I think, that we played them in the Champions League semi-final. We played them in 3 Champions League semi-finals. Like, it's 2 and a quarter, wasn't it?
The quarter, the Aurelio free kick. Remember that one? The quarter final.
It was a heartbreaker, that.
Yeah, I was so proud of it.
It was 3 semi-finals.
It was a semi-final.
Yeah, because we lost. We played in the quarter final as well. There was the 4-4 was a quarter final. The season before was when Ryan Babel scored for Moscow, and they played United in the final. That was a semi-final. 07 was the semi-final, and 05 was the semi-final. Like, to play the same team in the knockouts 4 seasons out of 5.
And we played them in the League Cup final.
And a League Cup final. Yep. And a League Cup game. And an FA Cup semi-final.
FA Cup semi-final, yeah.
That's a lot. And a Charity Shield.
What are we talking about again?
I think Liverpool and Chelsea. No, Phil actually like segued me nicely onto the Trent side of this, Keo, because I did want to come onto that and give it a particular bit of focus, because I'm sort of left wondering now whether it adds a new edge to this. Like we've referenced how much we're coming up against Madrid, how maybe as cultures we feel like we clash, and then like I'm looking at tomorrow night's game in particular, and Trent is the thing that's sort of making my passion burn that little bit brighter for it. He's been an unused sub in the past 2 games for them, having recovered from injury now. Like there's maybe a chance that we don't even see him, to be honest. I'd be gutted if we didn't in some way, because I kind of want to be able to give it to him, but I'm wondering whether
Nailed close to the match there.
Josh has got a pig's head ready for him, Luis Figo style.
Yeah, I'm not just fireworks outside the hotel, me, don't worry about that.
He's been the museum to ham over the leftovers.
Good. I'm sort of wondering whether, like, even if he doesn't come on in the game, will it even matter, Keo? Because, like, I just wonder whether he's already guaranteed there's going to be a little bit more hostility in the atmosphere for this one now. Like genuinely to the point that my energy is up for this game in a way that, like, you know, for Atletico at home the day before it, I wasn't like spewing ready to go into Anfield. Like there was nothing extra attached to that for me, and there is now for this one.
It's definitely going to make it spicier. You're talking then about like building rivalries and stuff like that, and this is what's happened. We played Real Madrid last year.
Well,
there's been a big transfer saga in the summer.
With the Chelsea thing, I wonder how much the Gerrard stuff impacted at the time too.
And now they've come back. There's a bit of extra needle about the game. Whether he'll feature or not, I don't know. I mean, he's been opening his mouth in the press, hasn't he? Saying that he said that he's ready for anything from Liverpool fans and stuff like that, which looking at both sides, you could say if he doesn't speak to the press and keeps his mouth shut, everyone will be saying that he's bottled it, he hasn't said nothing. And if he comes out and says that, if you take the quote, I'm ready anything from the fans, but if you watch the full interview, or read the full article, he does say, you know, it's my club and this and this. So there's an element of it where he's trying to repair relations a little bit, but I hope he gets absolute hell. I'm rightly so. Yeah. And like, there was 2 types of Liverpool fans towards the end of last season until we actually knew the facts. There was people arguing amongst themselves and people giving them stick. And, you know, there is a serious case to say as long as someone's in a Liverpool shirt, you back them, and especially when you're in a title race. So what happened, and he left, and now he's not in a Liverpool shirt, and now it's fine to say that he ran his contract down, he learned Spanish for 5 months, and he left the title-winning side to go and join Real Madrid, and now he's got to come back. Good luck to him.
Yeah, all the best.
No, not all the best.
No, all the worst. Sorry, yeah, absolutely. It was more like a Steven Gerrard, all the best, really, than an actual, genuine well-wish. Like there's going to be loads of coverage around this game and any potential boos and stuff. Dan, there'll be some people, you know, queuing up to call us weirdos for it, because that's always the way. It's the same
people
whenever
queuing up at the butchers.
People queuing up at the butchers. But it's the same whenever, you know, whenever there's Liverpool in a final, there's going to be a national anthem, really, isn't there? Like there's always going to be that queue of people who are just waiting for Liverpool to do something. It felt like that at times last season as well, where like all these people who previously slagged Trent off and threw him under every, you know, St George's flag bus that you could care to mention were suddenly the biggest Trent defenders, because it was like, oh, why Liverpool fans booing him, he's one of yours, and all that kind of thing. And
do you know, sorry, on this, so I got a really good insight into this in the summer.
Go on.
So I went to my cousin lives in, this is a mad segue anyway, my cousin lives in Rotherham, and I went to a kids footy tournament, and all the people there were just wearing random footy shirts, like adults, kids, whatever, every team you could mention, but all the big teams around Europe. So obviously outside of our bubble, people are just looking at big football teams and going, aren't they great? Wouldn't it be nice to play for them? And they can't see it from our point of view. Yeah. Like, they've all got football teams themselves, but they're not the biggest ones, and they just think, big football team, why can't you just be happy for a player to go and play for a big football team? And I was walking around, and I was just expecting to see like Barnsley, Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United shirts. It's just like Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Chelsea, Man City. I'm like, what? This is what's going on here? Yeah. Like, and it sort of, I sort of understood that more after that. Yeah. Don't agree with it. No. But I sort of understood how they've all gone, you're all mad booing him for just wanting to play for a good football team, because that's what they all think.
Yeah. Well, again, feels like the sort of reasoning behind going to that Swiss system and stuff, doesn't it? But I want to go back to that sort of coverage around the boos and stuff, Dan, because like I'm kind of torn in the sense that, like, I think the boos and stuff will make sense, and I think I'm probably on the side of like I'm going to give him hell, whether it is directly booing or whether it's just calling him fucking rat and all sorts really. But like there maybe is an argument to say like, and me, Phil and Kieran were talking about this before the show as well, like whether quiet disdain will actually get under his skin more than the booing and stuff, because it's like Keo says there with those quotes, like obviously there's more to the quotes than just that headline, but I think he'll have been whipping himself up for the idea that like he is coming back to be the enemy now, and actually maybe if he suddenly gets in there and feels like the focus isn't on him at all and it's just on the game of footy that may well be taking place for 90 minutes in front of his face rather than around his feet, maybe that's better for us.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think we're all just going to have to see how it plays out, aren't we? I mean, I read the interview that Keo was referencing, and there is just still some of the things he was saying towards the back end of last season and then continue in that interview for me just really don't make a lot of sense.
No.
Like, this idea of saying something as basic as, going into the away dressing room and, turning left when you go to warm up instead of right is just going to be really weird. And I'm just like, don't say it. Like, don't even do the interview. Don't say you're not going to celebrate if you score, because ultimately, like, you don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to make these noises. And this is where I think the red rag will be, because this was levelled at Trent last season, but it is also something definitely that you can label at Madrid, is that if there's any sight of perceived arrogance in Anfield from them or him, that's where it'll turn. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what happened with Coutinho and Suarez a few years ago. The day before the game, getting pictures taken around the ground and stuff, smiling, thumbs up. This idea that they thought they won it, they were coming back for a testimonial. Absolutely not. Like, you don't do that. Like, you don't. So I think the best thing he can do in loads of ways for himself is just keep his head down, and there's a strong potential that he might not even get on the pitch and see any game. So if the worst he gets is a bit of shit when he's warming up, then, fair enough. But I think with him, part of me I still remains quite sort of weirdly ambiguous, because part of me still loves him because of everything he delivered, and he was part of that side last year that I adored. And I don't like how he left and stuff like that. But I just remained silent throughout the whole of like the last few games and stuff. I didn't acknowledge him in any way, and I think that's probably where I'm going to go tomorrow, unless he does something that I perceive to be in line with that sort of arrogance, ignorance that Real Madrid can purvey sometimes. And at that point, I think that, like I said, that'll be the red rag.
I'm not so sure that the quiet will hurt him more.
Do you think?
No, I'm not too sure that being quiet will hurt him more. Just on the basis that he quite clearly got affected by the way he was booed and the way it went down after the announcements. There's a clip of is it Brighton, when we got beat and we're like that, and he's biting his nails, and I think he got a shock, to be honest. I think he thought that because he's won a second league title, go with a bit of a blessing from the majority.
It's where I think the Leicester moment gets misconstrued as well, because I think that was going to be his big get on me moment with the fans, and the fans all were like, fuck
what
off.
Are you doing? Yeah. Exactly.
Do you think the players think like this though? Because like there was that game last season, wasn't there, where Szoboszlai is almost like giving the cop a bit, saying why he's getting on his back, kind of thing. And then he said in that interview, he's already been joking with like Salah, Kanate, a few others about coming back.
On the Kanate one.
You know what I mean? Maybe keep quiet on that. But I don't know if the players think the same.
They definitely don't think the same, and you could see that by the way they were reacting. You could see the way Jürgen come out and he didn't have to say it, but he felt the need to say it. And
doesn't have to say much these days, Jürgen, but he keeps saying it.
Yeah, I know. He's getting paid to say it.
But he got a hell of a shot, Trent, in my opinion, and he was really, really nervous going to pick that medal up. And when he heard the cheer because of what Jürgen's done for him, the ego took over again, and it was like that then. Yeah. All he had to do was a little smile and a nod, pick the medal up and carry on. Everyone would have said he was made up there. But he put his hands out like it was all about him. And yeah, I hope he gets hell.
Good juxtaposition there, Phil. I want to come to you for the sort of final point on this, because I think there's clearly a difference in emotion styles of me and Dan there. Dan's got that sort of former scorned lover thing, but almost like a quiet resentment towards him, whereas I think mine is almost like it is going to more so spill out into anger, really. Like, I do feel like a scorned former lover with Trent, because as much as Dan says like he loves him for all the contributions of the things he did at the club, like I think I do too in some ways, but it's almost been like completely, like, the legacy is completely tarnished for me by the way he left the club. And again, like Dan says, they're like words not marrying up, and listen, they're words over many years, of course, but like again, similar to that thing Kio was saying there, it's like that, like the ego has just grown in him from the lad who was our local lad who was living his dream to this fella who clearly thinks he's a Galactico now.
Yeah, I think that the thing that sort of, not necessarily hurts, but is the problem, is that he was supposed to be the local lad who's going to be captain, who'd lift league titles, who'd hopefully lift the European Cup as the captain. And he decided that he didn't want that. And it's like, hang on, you've got what we wanted to do. You've got that. You've been given that. You've been blessed with an unbelievable level of ability and the ability to then do that. And then you go.
That's what the people in Rotherham don't understand.
Exactly. It's 100%. It's exactly it. And that's the problem in terms of, we think Liverpool, we've been talking about how big the clubs are, and we think Liverpool are the biggest club in the world because we support Liverpool, because we're from Liverpool, because we're involved in Liverpool on a day-to-day basis. And then he goes, nah, I want to go somewhere else. You can't, it just doesn't, it shouldn't make sense to anybody who's got anything to do with Liverpool. And that's the problem for me in terms of he's gone. Yeah, like you mentioned Konate a couple of minutes ago. Konate's not grew up around Liverpool. Yeah. He's not been at Liverpool since he was 5, 6, 7, whatever. Like, it's not the same. Like Shabazz, for example, kicking off. Fine, I don't necessarily object to that because he's sticking up for his mate, and that's fine. But he's not involved on the day-to-day thing in the way that Trent was, in the way that Curtis Jones is, in the way that we are.
Yeah.
There's more to it than that though, as well, because that's from an emotion side of it, but all Scousers who dream of playing for Liverpool, and never mind just playing for Liverpool, playing at the highest level, and having the opportunity to go, right, well, they're at the top, I could put the armband on next year, and I could be the one that lift these trophies. That's one side of it. Now you look at it from a pure football point of view. He decided to leave the champions.
Yep.
Like you talked about Steve McManaman before, and being happy for him, and the reason why you're happy for him was Liverpool were crap.
Yeah.
And Liverpool also tried to sell him.
Liverpool were miles away. Liverpool tried to do it the year before, tried to get rid of him. Liverpool were, I think they finished 7th that year. I have to check that.
Something like that. I think
they finished 7th that year.
We were in Europe that.
Yeah, and when Michael Owen went, no one's seen a European Cup coming the year later. No. We were miles off it. Yeah. We fell 5, 10 years away from being able to compete.
And the problem with Owen leaving wasn't necessarily that he left, it's sort of that he got to 1 year on his contract and we get £8 million and Antonio Nunes for him. It wasn't like, you could sort of understand his decision.
Because he was going...
He went to play off with Ronaldo and Raul.
You said to Steve McManaman and Michael Owen before they left, he said, I'm going to win a European Cup or win league titles. You couldn't have argued with them because Liverpool were not winning league titles. They weren't competing for league titles, and European Cups, we were miles away from it. Obviously, a year later, we go and win the European Cup, so Michael Owen looks stupid. But like I say, Liverpool were miles off it. When Trent leaves, Liverpool are in the place that we've always wanted them to be in. You know, we've got a great squad. We've got an amazing stadium. You know, we're at the top of the tree. Why do you want to leave that when you could go and captain it? So that's the reason why everyone's so angry. Not only is it like the emotion side of it, being a Scout and living our dream, it's the fact that from a football basis, you just walked out on us and we're champions.
And also the external noise is the gotcha, innit? It's like, you can't be saying Isak can go and, you know, agitate for a move away from Newcastle when you're saying Trent can't leave Liverpool. It's all of this hypocrisy, sort of double standard thing that people want to constantly say, yeah, but what about this? What about this? So that's just not an argument worth entertaining, but I completely take your point. And I do think that's what done for Owen a little bit as well, to be honest, in that I think there was, around that time, there was enough Liverpool fans saying, no, this is going to get better. Like, this fella is proper, like, he's serious what he's done at Valencia in terms of Rafa. Like, trust the process. And he left and Owen got hell. Like, when he came back. Yeah. With Newcastle, he got absolute fucking dog's abuse. Probably one of the worst I've seen at Anfield. And
there was never the same like emotional attachment really with Owen as there was with Trent, was there? No. And I guess McManaman probably is closer to the Trent side than he is to the Owen side. But because McManaman was one of our own, you were almost able to apply more logic. Whereas like with Trent, one of the things I think robbed his situation of the ability to just find logic in last season was like how much he played on the emotions of us. Like his brand Trent, let's call it that, like benefited from the emotions.
I think even with McManaman, though, everyone knew he was an Evertonian when he grew up. So it wasn't, you sort of not had a level of detachment, but you knew that it was not the same.
Yeah, but it's where the level of attachment came with Trent.
Robbie Fart, you know, for Trent, basically.
I think also for a lot of people, like a lot of people have been openly like detractors of Trent in terms of his ability. And I think a lot of Liverpool fans felt like they had to like defend him a lot over the years to outside people.
Massive fact.
Whereas, you know, you look at, I think if, you know, again, I might be speculating here, but if you look at McManaman and Gerrard, if both of them would have ended up Real Madrid, you'd said they have the ability to go there 100%. You wouldn't have questioned it because you watch them at Liverpool. You watch them hold Liverpool sides up. Whereas, you know, Trent's getting slaughtered on Super Sunday by Gary Neville, and it's Liverpool coming out constantly going to bat for him. You know, and I think, again, that's maybe a bit of part of the betrayal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we do wish Trent all the worst for tomorrow rather than all the best. We wish the Reds all the best, of course. All the best to Rotherham as well. Nice to hear them get a mention on the show. All the best, lads, around me here as always.
And the Butchers.
And the Butchers, yeah, absolutely. Make sure you're open tomorrow. Nice one.